you talked earlier about the Oxford narrative. That's really what you were talking about is how they want to have develop a model city as far as homelessness, being able to help the homeless, but then also being able to have um, businesses that can afford services to network with each other. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes, it is. And it actually started this way. I was walking in a town right around us and with my wife going to a bar where they have music. And I'm going, holy cow, 70% of these stores are shut. We can't have this happen here. We got to do something about it. So what we're going to focus on is the epidemic of retail store closings, restaurants, small businesses, and really use the Oxford strategy, the Americanization of the Oxford strategy to teach people how it can work here. And it absolutely can. We've got even better media to use. And now we're mixing it. The Oxford strategy happened before AI, but now we're blending it with media and AI, and we have to teach media literacy so people won't be fooled and won't understand how they're being manipulated. And it is now California law that schools have to teach AI and media literacy in high schools. So this is absolutely our mission. So for what you are doing with pharmacies, this is really, I think, really in our wheelhouse for everything we want to try and accomplish.
Yeah, just learning how to incorporate the tools within small businesses, whether it's pharmacies or any other small business, to um, on really three different levels. One is social media to get the word out, but number two is really developing policies and procedures because most small businesses, if the owner and maybe a longtime employee know what goes on, but it doesn't allow for other people that come in to know, and so the owner has to be there a lot versus, you can use AI to write policies and procedures and then teach them so that the businesses can really go out into the community because the only way a community can grow is the business owners have to go out and let people know that they're there. And that's, because um, that the story you just shared is very similar to what happens, I mean, in Santa Barbara being, a very wealthy community. But the storefronts, you go down State Street, which is the main street, and restaurants, small businesses, every time we go there, and we go, at least 5 or 6 times a year, there's a new one there. And so from that standpoint, you would think in that particular community that they would be able to sustain it. But there's not there's um, they don't have a plan. And there's actually some tech companies, I forget which tech company is actually there, and but they just they have a tough time. So I think it's that's something is that if we can really focus and then also get these brick and mortar places to realize that having local support, but then also having an online presence is the best of both worlds so that they can sustain.
Excuse me, I've got to get my throat spray. I'm going to be coughing in your ears.
Okay.
I don't
No
want.
worries.
Hi, DeBard. Doing
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
pretty well. I'm on an airplane getting to take off, but I'm checking. So good. Shut down.
So where you headed to?
Well, I just flying out of San Francisco. Mike was
It's mine. Yours is mine.
and, flying at San Francisco.
Okay, that's we get moving on. Repeated and buckled up. They make sure your back is upright. Tray table that's stowed and all carrying items are put away. For easy access, I would take off the laptop and devices similar to that. You place under the seat in front of you. All devices must be unplugged from its power outlet at this time. We'll let you know as soon as you can use them. If you are a mid-customer, you lose your handheld device in your seat. Please refrain from adjusting your seat and contact the like remember for assistance.
Bob, I think we're getting some weird
Feedback.
yeah, third-party audio. Let me say, gentlemen, that I would like to, I've interviewed Bob for what I call podcast walking. Now, what that means as part of the health initiative is I want to get people out of Zoom meetings, and I'd love to interview you too, Patrick. And I interviewed Bob, he'll talk about that. And we had a blast. It was so much fun. We walked around the reservoir, ran into people I knew. We included them in the conversation. Now, we don't have to record it while we're walking, but I want to motivate people to listen while they're doing something that brings them joy. The joy is in the doing. So I want them to be active. If it's walking, if it's fishing, if it's spending time, taking their grandkids to karate or ballet classes, something that brings them joy. I interviewed Charles Schultz, the creator of the Peanuts comic strip, and he told me the joy is in the doing, and he did that for 60 years. So talking about sustainability. And so what happens is, you guys can be talking, and we want to get people active and then hearing about you, so they're networking in an asynchronous way. You don't have to just hook up to learn about Patrick, and you don't have to, be at the same time like we are right now with Damar, so that we can begin to share our visions and our communications while we're getting people more actively engaged in what their joy is. And now, one thing that we do not know, Damar, is what is the future of commerce? Kelly Moore stores, 165 paint stores, just closed right around me. They weren't all around me; they're national, but they all closed and they went online. So that's what we need to be talking about and thinking about with Oxford and Caltech. And, one thing I want to do in my hometown is use the unrented storefronts for AI startups as incubators. And I want to invite the world's smartest AI people to come here. I want to encourage them. If they can't, they can't, but I want to encourage them to come here. And I visualize this being the Florence of AI. I want it to be the next renaissance of artificial intelligence. And I want it to be the model of, transforming different communities with different visions that are idealized, and figure out, well, what is the new form of business? I don't know. And neither does the dean of Oxford, he got his PhD from Cal in AI, in quantum computing 30 years ago. So as we learn more about this stuff, we can be evangelists for it, sharing in our own business sectors, where the world is heading. And we have to, because we've got to monitor AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Patrick. Always good to see you, my friend.
Thank you. And my apologies, Zoom decided to update the program. And my apologies, I wasn't here last week. What you're doing, what you're both doing is absolutely marvelous. And this is where things start. They start with a thought.
Right.
They start with, well, why are we doing it this way? And the primary cognitive abilities are thinking, memory, language, and perception. Now, a definition for thinking is what you're asking there, Mike, is trying to anticipate the future. That's one definition. Okay.
Okay.
So, but I think we have to go back a bit. We have to say to people, right, somebody who's 16 or 25 or 35 or 40 or whatever, we say to them, what is your dream? What is your vision? What is your dream? Do you dream even? Because are people dreaming now like they used to? And if we don't dream, where are we? Are we just going through the motions, you know? Do we have to be in a room with the television on? Can we sit in a room? Can we be quiet and see what the universe allows in? You know, so I think the question is excellent, but I think we got to go back to fundamentals where, for instance, the world is upside down at the moment, and some people are hooking into it, and as you can imagine, gradual layers of being told something will then potentially become part of our beliefs.
Okay, let me interrupt you for a minute, Patrick,
Yeah.
because you're saying some interesting things. Here's what I'd like to do, and I'd like to suggest is a couple of things. One is that I would like to interview you both right this minute. Even though you have not yet really deeply learned AI, but what you do have is wisdom. You have experience and you have wisdom, okay? And that is really, to me, the place to start, because knowledge, the value of knowledge is going down because you can search it for free in 2 seconds. But the value of wisdom is actually going up exponentially. And people that have wisdom talking to younger people, as we can do right now with podcast listening, as we are sitting here, is very, very important. Now, one thing that I want to address is I have an acronym for dreams, Patrick, and
Okay.
my acronym is Deep Rest Education about Monetization Systems. So in other words, it is about making your dreams come true and focusing on dreams. But I don't know if you guys know about Yoga Nidra or NSDR, non-sleep deep rest. It's like meditation while you're learning and learning deeper. It is practiced by the CEO of Google. So it's not airy-fairy stuff. It is, how would you run Google without driving yourself nuts? So this stuff I've been doing it for 30 years and I absolutely adore it. It's so, in 10 minutes, it's called deep rest. So you can gain deep rest in just 10 minutes of Yoga Nidra. And I could share some Yoga Nidra. My favorite is Dr. I can't think of her name at the moment. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about wisdom and sharing things with younger people. And so now, one thing, guys, if you're listening right now to podcast listening, I have a room with some very wise gentlemen in it. And we want to share why you should be walking for your health, why you should be dreaming, why you should be using your imagination. And so, since you brought it up, Patrick, let's start with you talking to a younger generation, because we're all about cross age group networking to bring some wisdom to younger generations. You kind of opened the conversation, Patrick O'Flynn. So what would you say to some of the younger people as we encourage them to walk and share your wisdom while they are keeping busy and doing what they love doing?
Okay, so I would be asking them, what does winning look like for them? Now, it's an open question, and depending on the answer of that question, it would generate more questions around evolvement, formation, where are we going, what are we doing? And then I'd try to drill down in, well, tell me, are you politically minded, politically orientated? And this is not a criticism, it's just a question. Do you believe in democracy, for instance? You know?
Yeah.
And now I've I've had a little bit of experience in this, and people say, "Oh, they're all crooked. They're all the politicians are all crooked." Well, I said, well, I've met a lot of them at one stage in my life, and I found, I said, you may not agree with this, but I found that most of them went into politics to do good. Now, that is admirable. They put their name on the ballot sheet and they put their poster up on the poll and all that kind of thing. Now, that took guts. That takes guts. So when you say they're all crooked, what do you mean?
Well, that's just a hasty generalization. That's the biggest falsehood when you just generalize everybody into one thing. No, but if there's one that is not crooked, then you cannot say they're all crooked. So
Yes, exactly. It's logically inconsistent to say that every politician is crooked.
exactly, exactly. So you have to take them politician at a time. Now let's share a little bit more with DeMar Lewis because he's got some big challenges with the pharmaceutical industry and the retail
Oh,
industry. So let's have DeMar share a little bit about his vision for what period of AI we're going into, and maybe some of his thinking and what we should be looking at toward the future because AI is coming.
Yes, it is. Well, AI is here.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think last year, 2023, um, um, it was it became the next new thing that was, and it's only continued to morph into more popular and more um, sophisticated. And so, yes, so I work with small businesses. Specifically, I'm a pharmacist of 40 plus years. And community pharmacies are closing, and they're closing because they don't have systems in place that allow them to compete um, with the big corporate pharmacies such as Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid. But I think that the one thing that the pandemic has done is it's leveled kind of the playing field. And with AI, you now have the ability to compete, even though you don't have the resources of a big corporate entity. And you can use AI to automate your process. A lot of times in a pharmacy, you kind of just do things because you set the computer on one end of the bench, and you just left it there, not really knowing anything about workflow. And now you can really look at workflow, and so that nothing gets touched twice, and the right person can do that, but it requires some thought. And I think that AI allows that thought process, and to help the business owner, and then likewise communicate what you're doing differently. Because right now in this environment, um, you don't social media is where most of the communication is occurring. And for a lot of business owners, pharmacy owners specifically, they're not talking there. They're just assuming that a person's going to walk into their pharmacy, hand them a prescription, and that's going to be their new customer, as opposed to using AI, using technology to get your word out and why you're different. Um, and so from that standpoint, that is, that's the thing. But and going back to what Patrick was saying is you do need the ability to dream because you can't do that if you're working 70-hour weeks and you don't get enough rest. And even though we've got all this technology, we're not taking time out to reflect, and I think that, and you mentioned about exercise, how important that is. But if you can't dream, then it's going to be much tougher to see or to implement changes. So from that standpoint, that's what I feel.
Just one second, Patrick. Let me set the stage, and I want to ask you both something important. Now, I'm a father of three, and as Oxford teaches, we don't know what jobs are going to disappear, what businesses are going to disappear, almost like quicksand, or what new opportunities are going to come. So, as a father, my job on earth is to make sure that the people I love are prepared for the future as best as I can. And if that may be about using their imaginations and being open-minded. So what fatherly type wisdom and advice can you give to a younger generation of up and coming business people about where we are today with our experience? We've all made mistakes. We eliminate the things that don't work, and that's where you accumulate wisdom. So, Patrick, why don't we start with you? And what would you share with younger people about your wisdom?
I would share with them that to have an open mind. As Darwin told us, adapt or die. Now, that's a bit crude maybe, but so when you have an open mind, you are more willing to explore possibilities. But then the next step is very important. So if I want to know something about pharmacy, I go to DeMar, right? I go to DeMar because he's an experienced pharmacist. But very often people go to somebody for advice about something they know nothing about because they're a friend or something. And that can be very misleading. So we need to have more than one opinion about something, but an opinion from people who, they've achieved something, they've done things, and are you going to just put your toe into this? Are you going to go all in? And when you go all in principle, that mindset can be damaging, if I'm doing it, I'm 100%. Well, why is it that most millionaires have 7 streams of income? I mean, that's really smart. One's gone up, one's gone down, some are staying the same, but you still have residual income coming in so that you can live, so that you can sit down and look at the wall and think without being worried. There are 2 things that you need. You need fresh air and money. And when you haven't got either of them, it's all you think about. When you've got both of them, you can think about something else.
Very good. So, one of the things that I think are so important is testimonials.
Yes.
To talk about, that's why business networking is so important, that you can get referred to different people with referrals. Now, DeMar, we know, Patrick, from our networking events, that DeMar has experience. He's legitimate. He's somebody that you can listen to. DeMar, what kind of advice would you give to younger people? Maybe they're in the pharmacy industry or just the retail industry or wannabe. What are your thoughts?
Well, just I think that being open and exploring um, to all the options. A lot of times, like for example, on LinkedIn, there are a couple of pharmacy owners that they have a tendency to congregate with someone that has a bad outlook on the pharmacy industry. as opposed to looking and seeing what is possible, and going to those people that are finding opportunities, as opposed to saying how bad things are and someone has to save me, as opposed to realizing that, it's really like Edison, when someone said that he had failed, 10,000 times, to create the light bulb and electricity. And he said, no, I just found 10,000 ways not to do it. And being open, to being able to say, okay, that didn't work. What else can I do? What else can I look at? Is the thing, because, I share daily or weekly with business owners now, that they say, well, how do you know? Why do you think that there's opportunity? I says, because I've been down the road that you're on right now, and so I've seen the other side of it, whereas you're just starting to come into it. But you have to be willing to be open and look at the opportunity.
Let me explain to people listening how to connect the dots with us. And this is important. And I refer to this a lot, but he was a master of his world. That was Steve Jobs. And what he was able to create, and it was amazing. And when he spoke to the Stanford graduating class just before he died at their commencement, he said, you can't connect the dots forward. You can only connect the dots backwards from experience. And that will make all of the difference. So what I am doing to help people connect the dots with us is I am using podcast listening on YouTube, and where I can put the dots to connect with us right under this YouTube podcast. As you're listening to us talk right now, you can sit down on a bench, or you can wait until you get back to your home or to your office. And if you look under this video right now, you will be able to connect the dots with us with AI business networking, to go to our referral groups, go to our speed networking events, connect with us and learn more and meet us. So that's one of the ways that I want to encourage people to be out walking whenever you want at a place that brings you joy, but take a break and connect the dots with us. Go right under this video and you'll be able to reach us, learn more from us, ask us questions, etc. Patrick, you look like you were preparing an answer.
No,
I've got to
yeah,
hop off right now, guys.
Thank you,
Um,
Damar.
Demar,
Thanks
I
for
want to ask you a question. And do
Okay.
you remember years ago when supermarkets came along, and the small corner shop had a huge challenge because they couldn't order quantities in the way a big supermarket would. So they didn't get the best value, so their prices were higher, but they're still there. They're still there, even though there are supermarkets there. All right, they open at unusual hours, but they're still there. So what is this problem with, I'm trying to understand this, what is the problem with pharmacies? What is the problem?
The problem is that there no one, um, number one, they don't train um, in pharmacy school what you have to do to be successful. All they do is say these things are really important, um, and but you have to have you have to explore. You have to realize that what the right opportunity is, and it's not going to be the same for everyone. And that's the problem right now is, they're saying being a pharmacist where you're a drug expert and you tell the doctors what the right medication is is it, but you also need to have pharmacists that can be a patient advocate who can say to the doctor, Mrs. Smith doesn't understand that she's taking 12 medications and it's coming from 6 different doctors, and she really depends on you to be the primary care doctor.
Wow. Wow.
So can you explain to her, what medication she really needs to have, and if you need help, I can help you with that. But realizing that they serve the patient, they don't serve the doctors, they don't serve the hospitals, but we serve the patients.
It sounds to me.
Hop,
Yeah.
hop, hop.
Okay, I know you got to go, Damar. Thank you. Keep walking, everybody. We're going to have other people join us on your walk. So keep on keeping on. And Patrick, I appreciate you taking the time with us. We'll be able to do it again as you learn more about AI, because what we want to do is we want to teach people about AI and about podcasting with AI while they are walking, while they are podcast walking and
Very
podcasting.
good. Very good. Well done, Mike, and congratulations on all your support.
Thank you.
It's great to be with you. Great to be with you.
Always enjoy being with you, Patrick O'Flynn. So look for the connect the dots right underneath this video and keep on walking and join us again.